This week, the question we're talking about is one I think that everyone in middle school can relate to. Where do I fit in? Now let me just stop here and say that if you found yourself asking this big question, you're not alone. Because honestly, we all want to belong. It's normal and it's healthy. And humans want to find a place where they fit in, where we belong, where we feel loved. Maybe you have a new step-parent or a new foster family. Maybe you moved somewhere new and had a friend leave your school. Maybe you're even new here at church, or you barely know anyone in your small group. Those kinds of things have a way of making us feel like we suddenly just don't belong anymore. And that's really hard because the truth is, we all need a place where we feel like we belong. We all want to feel like we have a place where we just fit in. Being able to walk into the lunchroom and have a group of friends to sit with, finding friends who have the same sense of humor as we do, seeing people like what we post on social media, having a small group here at church who supports and encourages us, that's all stuff that makes us feel like we belong. It makes us feel like we fit in, and that's a pretty good feeling. But the thing about that feeling is that it doesn't always seem to last. Especially in middle school, you might feel like you belong one day and then you don't the next. Where you fit seems to change on a regular basis. So I think the reason we've got big questions about where we fit in is because it feels like where we fit in is always changing. And that can make us feel like maybe we need to do some changing if we want to belong. And we all have. It's like we're saying the real me isn't fitting in right now, so this is the new me that I think will belong here. But the thing is, that isn't the real you. At the end of the day, we all want the real versions of ourselves to be the ones that people love, accept, and know. We want to belong as we really are. But if we're honest, we've probably said that we're afraid that that will never really happen. And that leaves us asking this big question: where do I fit in? And when it comes to our biggest questions, we need big answers. Today, we're going to take a look at a historical record found in the second part of the Bible. It's called Acts. I think that this book can help us answer this big question. What's cool about Acts is in it, the very beginning of it is the church's story. It highlights some of the heroes and of the Christian faith who followed Jesus' teaching and made it their mission to share it with the world. One of those people is a guy named Paul. When Paul started following Jesus, everything changed in his life. Because of that, he wanted everyone to know about everything he did for Jesus and that Jesus did for him. Paul traveled to new places to tell people what Jesus had done for him. Paul, the Jewish all-star, ready to spread the message of Jesus. See, Paul totally knew that he belonged with the Jews. He knew the message of Jesus was for him and his people. But Jesus changed all of that. Jesus' arrival turned everything that Paul knew about being Jewish into something else. One of Paul's trips to a place called Philippi. There, he and his traveling companions went just outside the city where they encountered a woman named Lydia, as most people thought Paul and his friend would just pass right by. Their message wasn't for her, right? Well, take a look at what Luke, the writer of the book of Acts, said happened next. This may not seem like a big deal to us, but to the Jewish believers back then, this would have been crazy. Not only was Lydia a Gentile, but she was also a woman. As a woman in that time, she didn't have a lot of power or influence, but there she was, listening to Paul share his message of Jesus. What he said had an impact on Lydia, so much that she wanted to follow. She wanted to join the movement. She wanted to be in. She wanted to belong. But Lydia knew there was more than just a few reasons why she might be kept out. Even if she was good with God, she might not be good with God's people. So look back at what she said. She might as well have said, "Paul, do I really belong? I am a Gentile. I am a woman. I have every reason to believe you won't think I belong, but I also have faith. Is that enough? Can I belong with God's people? Is my faith enough?" And how did Paul respond? Well, the author of Acts doesn't tell us immediately. He makes us wait a while to find out. Along the way, he talks about the time when Paul and Silas ended up in prison, got in a crazy situation, saved some dude's life, and then got out of prison. Trust me, you should check it out. But when he does get back to Lydia, this is how it ends. This was a big moment. Lydia, a non-Jew, and her friends weren't treated like outsiders. These were the friends Paul and Silas went to after they had been through something terrible. These were their ride or dies, their friends like family relationships. They were in. They were like brothers and sisters, and they all belonged. And this wasn't just true about Lydia. It's true about all the people just like Lydia. It's true about everyone who wants to follow Jesus, even today. We know this is not just because of a moment with Lydia, but because we read about it throughout other letters in the Bible. Paul actually sent a letter to Lydia's church in Philippi talking about how much the faith of Lydia's church encouraged him. And in another letter, we read something that Paul later said to a church in Galatia, and he wrote this. Over and over, Paul uses this phrase in his letter. There is neither. In other words, those categories that made some people feel like they belong and some people feel like they didn't, simply didn't exist anymore. And the things that make you feel like you don't belong, they don't exist anymore because of Jesus. And knowing Jesus changes everything. With God's people, you belong. That was Paul's message then, and it is the message for the church now. Everyone matters. Everyone is welcome, and everyone belongs. That community, that early church, and it's the same group of people that we're all invited today. Paul's declaration to them is the same one we receive today, that we all belong here. You don't have to do anything or be anything, no matter where you're from or what you've done or what things have changed in your life. You have a place here. Whether you feel sure about following Jesus or you're just trying to figure things out, you belong here. Maybe you feel that you don't really belong with God or God's people because you aren't good enough, or because you aren't from a religious family, or because of the things that you've done. Maybe you think you don't belong here because you don't know if you believe about all that God stuff, or if it's even true. Maybe you feel like you've made too many mistakes to ever be accepted. Well, if you leave knowing one thing today, let it be this. You belong here, and you have a place with God and with other people who follow God. So, as you struggle with the big question, where do I fit in? Remember that truth, and then commit to trying something this week. First, take a step towards being more of yourself. You don't have to do all the things right, say all the right things, do all the right things, act a certain way to belong. You can be a part of Jesus following community just as you are. Be you. Our goal is for you to feel welcome here by just being your unique self. Second, take a step towards someone else. How can you make someone else feel like they belong here? Maybe it's being the first to say hi to someone, or inviting someone to sit by you, or introducing someone who's new to other people in your small group. How can you help someone else feel like they belong? Third, take a step towards Jesus. The woman we heard about today, she didn't start by knowing all the right answers or doing all the right things to fit in. She just said yes to following Jesus. She took a step forward towards Jesus, and that's all she had to do to recognize that she belonged with Jesus. So I want you to try to do that same thing. Maybe for you, it might be praying for the first time, or reading the Bible, or asking a small group leader to help you with some tough questions. Maybe it's just deciding to keep showing up here every week, even if you're not sure. Whatever it is, commit to just one step in that direction of the God who loves you and knows and tells you that you belong.